Kermit the Frog, probably one of the most iconic puppets to ever hit the big screen, with probably the greatest film ever written, Muppets Christmas Carol. However, there was a time when the frog was at the mercy of the mouse. Yes, we are talking today about the time that Kermit the Frog was fired by Disney. Anyone looking for a fuzzy frog? Hello! Welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and today we're talking about unacceptable business practices, redundancy, and Kermit the Frog. What do all of these things have in common? Well, we'll get there, but first we need to lay the groundworks and how we even got to this silly position in the first place. So, Kermit the Frog is an iconic character, a celebrity in himself, and has been the lead star in a number of various shows, movies, merchandise, and so on. The Muppets has been a widely successful show spanning all the way from 1955 by creator Jim Henson to the present day. Originally being puppeteered and performed by Jim Henson himself until his passing in 1990, where Steve Whitmire took over the iconic role. This was, as you can imagine, pretty big boots to fill, seeming as though that you're playing the character that the Jim Henson played before his passing. So, Steve would go on, and he would even voice Kermit going forward, and being part of such infamous films like A Muppets Christmas Carol, Muppets Treasure Island, and Muppets in Space. Sorry, what I meant to say was Muppets in Space! Something pretty significant happened in this time, however. Disney acquired the Muppets' intellectual property for $75 million on the 17th of February 2004. This included the majority of the Muppets films and television library, The Bear in the Big Blue House, alongside distribution rights for some other Muppets films. There were some retained films such as Fraggle Rock and Sesame Street, but to be able to get the rights to the Muppet Show, that's pretty big in itself. The mouse has them now, all for the very low price of just $75 million. And as you can imagine, they probably made that money back in absolutely no time whatsoever. That's one corporate acquisition. Ha ha ha. 2 corporate acquisitions. Ha ha ha. Disney pushed the Muppets to a more mainstream audience after they acquired them, making appearances on many parts of the Disney media empire, from the Disney Channel, appearing on NBC, starring in their own new shows, and even appearing at the Webby Awards. Hell, they even put Kermit in some Supreme branded clothing for good measure. The Muppets were being propelled forward, being more popular than ever, all while Steve kept voicing Kermit after the acquisition by Disney. To hold down a job this long was pretty impressive in itself, but Steve Whitmire voicing Kermit would keep doing so until the year 2016. This incredibly long stint of 26 years playing Kermit came to a sudden end when it was announced that he would be leaving the studio and be no longer playing Kermit. At the time, no reason was given, and people weren't too sure exactly what happened. All they knew was that he was departing from the role and Matt Vogel was coming in to replace him, which was a bit strange and very sudden. What could have happened? You'd think that if he was retiring from the role, then they would have just said that he was retiring from the role. No one would question it. He's retiring. That's cool. But that wasn't the reason given. No reason was given, and the silence is even more deafening. The fans, understandably, were very upset by this and were waiting very patiently for some news as to what had occurred. Thankfully, they didn't have to wait too long until the truth came out. Well, this truth came in a few different answers, as both Steve Whitmire and Disney gave differing reasons behind his departure. Steve says that he was let go because he spoke up about changes being made to the character he felt were against what creator Jim Henson would have wanted. Disney went for the approach that it was how Steve conducted himself in the workplace. I mean, come on guys, it was one of them. I mean, it might have been both, but you'd think that there's probably one person more in the right here than the other. It could very well be corporate doublespeak for, you do what we tell you or we're going to boot you out the door, and that's probably what happened. Allegedly. Steve went on to tell Hollywood Reporter that he was let go in relation to the unwanted notes during the Muppets reboot on ABC and a disagreement through his union, saying the following. The first issue was that they felt I had been disrespectful in being outspoken on character issues with the small group of top creative people during the ABC series. I've been outspoken about what's best for the Muppets since the Muppets came to Disney. But the fact is, I have respect for everyone who was involved in the creation of that series for their own particular contributions. At the same time, I also have insight into their limitations, with respect to how well they know the Muppets. Yes, the difference of opinion has pretty much led to what Disney calls it unacceptable business conduct being raised against Steve. So that's one way to put it. Even being quoted as saying that he was being overly hostile and unproductive in the workplace, stating that after a protracted period of being uncooperative and unprofessional, they just pulled the plug on the whole thing. Yes, Disney straight up fired Kermit. Well, not Kermit himself, they obviously still own Kermit, but the person that was playing Kermit. They just decided enough was enough, even after 26 years in the role. A spokesperson for the Muppets studio actually commented on this and said the following: "The role of Kermit the Frog is an iconic one that is beloved by fans, and we take our responsibility to protect the integrity of that character very seriously. We raised concerns about Steve's repeated unacceptable business conduct over a period of many years, and he consistently failed to address the feedback. The decision to part ways was a difficult one, which was made in consultation with the Henson family and has their full support." I mean, the $75 million probably helped in that decision, but if that's the end result, then you can't really do much about it. You've got the odds stacked against you. It should be said that Jim Henson was apparently in talks with Disney for them to acquire the Muppets prior to his passing, so his family would have eventually taken over the deal on his behalf a number of years later. So the fact that Disney owned the properties of Kermit wasn't the issue, but the fact that, in Steve Whitmer's opinion anyway, that they were portraying Kermit in a different way to what Jim would have wanted. So, you're probably asking, what is the actual disagreement? What was the actual differing opinion which led to this breakdown of a relationship between Steve and the Disney studio? Well, it came down to a particular short, where Kermit was talking to his nephew about the reason that he'd split up with Miss Piggy, and he lied to him in the script. So, Steve had the following to say about this decision. "I don't think Kermit would lie to him. I think that as Robin came to Kermit, he would say, 'Things happen, people go their separate ways, but that doesn't mean we don't care about you.' Kermit is too compassionate to lie to him to spare his feelings. We have been doing these characters for a long, long time, and we know them better than anybody. I thought I was aiding to keep it on track, and I think the big reason why the show was cancelled after one season last fall was because that didn't happen. I'm not saying my notes would have saved it, but I think had they listened more to all of the performers, it would have made a really big difference. I'm still trying to make sense of how those two issues were egregious enough to justify ending a 39-year career without at least giving me an ultimatum at the time the issue occurred, when I would have had a chance to correct my course. Although this is one clear example as to what likely led to this decision, it almost sounds like this is probably a long-running thing, that over a number of years they've butted heads so many times that eventually they just decided it wasn't worth it anymore. So it's probably not just one or two things, it's probably been a collection of so many disagreements over so long. And, well, these things happen. And all we can hope for is that whoever's in charge of dealing with all of these things to do with Kermit and what he's involved with in the future, that we just hope that when they're looking at what he's going to do, that they'll do Jim Henson proud. If you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas for what topics you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. So yeah, let me know what you think. Who do you think was in the right? And more importantly, did he dodge a bullet by being able to get out of the grip of the mouse himself? I'll let you be the judge of that. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.